Oh, hello, and welcome to Adente Rigor Mortis. I'm Review Cultist.
Mikey, the stands for evil.
And I'm the gamer in yellow. Do you need a losage, cultist? You're really dry this morning. Here you go. Here, take this.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And we're here to discuss those internet stories, most creepy and most pasta, and be critically silly doing it. And tonight we have The Wicker House. So, The Wicker House is by Shadow Swimmer 77.
Which other ones has he done?
Shadow Swimmer is responsible for Jeff the Killer Redux.
Which one?
the Redux that we did, like
the most recent one.
Yeah, the most recent of Jeffuary episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff the Killer Redux. Which one?
There was like a couple that are redone. Regardless, moving on.
Yeah. Well, I did actually look it up. Jeff the Killer Redux that's the title of Shadow Swimmer's one, whereas the other ones generally are like Jeff the Killer 2015 and
yes, but they are themselves also reduxes.
Yeah.
Regardless, that's not this story. Please continue.
No. You can check out The Wicker House on creepypasta.wiki. After we did Jeff the Killer Redux, I went on to Jeff's. I went on to Shadow Swimmer's profile and found that like they had done a crap ton of other stories, including a whole series of stories revolving around the Wicker House and the town of Arthur's Wake, which might sound familiar, and I'll explain why in my actual thoughts.
Okay.
However, I will dive into the rundown. Our narrator, because we never get a name, so his name is Nair, is describing this tale about the origin of the Wicker House, the resident haunted house for the town of Arthur's Wake. In 1920, Thomas Wicker, a millionaire, oil prospector, and fishing magnate, came to the Wake and almost immediately began construction of a home there. Rumors spread following its completion, as the house was surrounded by spiked iron fencing, with 2 live-in servants, an African groundskeeper, and a vaguely Asian maid, who performed all maintenance and errands around the house. Thomas Wicker also had a wife, who was the biggest mystery of them all, since no one ever fully saw her, just an obscured form behind a window at night, like as people passed by the house. Mr. Wicker would travel abroad and return to the town, carousing at the local bar and telling stories of his exploits, which only fueled rumors as to the origins of Mrs. Wicker, who no one even knew the name of, like the full name. Like she was just known as Mrs. Wicker. And unfortunately, even while drunk, Mr. Wicker was very tight-lipped about anything about her. Then in 1925, after Mr. Wicker had returned from his latest trip, he came into the bar disheveled and wild-looking, did some drinking, and then dumped his wallet onto the bar counter before leaving. That's when the screams and cackles were heard from the house. 2 police officers arrived on scene to discover the maid and groundskeeper tied up and mutilated in horrible fashion. When they searched deeper in the house, they found no sign of Mrs. Wicker. Checking her bedroom, they only found mad scrawlings over every surface. And then it was time to check the attic. There they found Mr. Wicker, mad and mumbling in the corner. As the officers approached the wild form, he stopped mumbling and said, "She's gone," before defenestrating himself out the attic window and impaling himself on the spikes below. It was the disappearance of children in the wake that began occurring after all of this, and for the next 60 years, that has drawn Nair to this place. The urban legends surrounding the house, the missing persons cases, have all brought Nair to this site, seeking any sign of the supernatural, because apparently he's been going across the world, or across like America or wherever this is, looking for signs of the supernatural or the other side. As he is walking up to the Wicker House at night, recording this tale and testament on a handheld recorder, As he is about to open the door, he thinks he sees a form at the window where Mrs. Wicker was allegedly said to always be. And then he opens the door. Finn. So, yeah, that was the rundown. And now we shall move on to Everyone Tolerates the Grammar Inquisitions! At this point. I've got a couple. A couple of mine are also like... So this story is very Purple Pro. Like, very... A lot of fancy words. So, and there's a couple that I, like, stumbled on. It's like, what the... what?
You need to have Google open while reading this.
Yeah. There's for at least 2 or 3 words or phrases. And I'm going to start with the first one here. To my great surprise, while failing to confirm the more supernatural claims of the tales, the town records in the basement of the local library did provide aspect to a most sinister reality all their own. And initially I was like, provide aspect? So apparently it is a phrase, basically to provide a new perspective or angle on something. So, however, every time I was like looking on online trying to find out like this phrase to see if it is actually a phrase that's used, it's usually like provide a new aspect.
Yeah.
So
that's what I read it like.
Yeah. So maybe add between provide and aspect, like a new, but yeah. So that was my first one. The next one here. These theories were repudiated by those few who would occasionally spy her from the street. Repudiated is a verb.
Does not sound like a real word.
It doesn't. It really, like, to my tongue, it does not. It's just like it's like a Cthulhu language. It's Aklo as far as my tongue is, because it's like trying to like sound it out and it's like not happy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, repudiated is a verb. I'm probably saying it wrong, but whatever. The first definition, refuse to accept or be associated with. The second definition, deny the truth or validity of something. And then the third description is when this one is tied to like it being involved with like law. Refuse to fulfill or discharge an agreement, obligation, or debt. So I guess it makes sense because like these theories were repudiated by those few who would occasionally spy. So like basically like the theories of like who she was or like what she was, like Mrs. Wicker, were denied,
like,
or like they weren't sure of the validity of the theories, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, that's a new word on me. It's like, what? And
repudiated?
I know. I'm a simple man.
I didn't either, honestly. I just read over it and just kept going.
Yeah. Most of the time I can do that, or like I can like figure out what a word means by context. But for that one, I was like, what?
Yeah.
Like the next one here. It never took long for Wicker's tongue to be sufficiently loosened, at which time he would regale his latest passel of hangers-on with fantastic stories of his journeys abroad. Passel, a noun. A large group of people or things of indeterminate number, or in other cases, a pack. So that was another word that I guess it's like an Old English word or something.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've never heard that one before.
Nope.
I wonder if it's like linked to the root word for like parcel or something. Because parcel is sometimes used as like for like a bundle.
Perhaps.
But yeah, I digress. I'll move on. My last one. Long-term veterans and hard men of both, they were nevertheless ill-prepared for what they would soon find at the Wicker House. So I think even with me like reading that, I still kind of ended up adding a punctuation that isn't there. Mm-hmm. I think there needs to be a comma between both and they. So it's like long-term veterans and hard men both, comma. They were nevertheless ill-prepared for what they would soon find at the Wicker House. Yeah, and that is my grammar inquisition. So, Mikey, the E stands for evil.
All right. The second sentence of this story begins with an "it," and I believe it's a run-on.
Yeah, there are a couple of I let it go for some reason in the story because it was like,
Well, you know
But
it's
I-
going to be picked up, so it's fine.
yeah, it's fair.
Yeah, so it seems that every small province plays host to some structure of ill repute which, as if by supernatural magnetism, draws rumor of ghosts and bogies, wrapping the timber and stone of its foundation in a shroud of darkness and horror.
Yeah, that is quite long.
Jesus. Yep. Wait, was that the only it story? The only it?
No.
Okay.
I have a conjunction junction
Oh,
for
okay.
later, but I made note of that one because it was the second sentence.
And it was a
Yeah.
run-on. That was the main reason.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a bit of a run on. A whole 3 lines, in fact.
Next one I have is also a run on, but is easily fixed with either a period or a semicolon. Scant days after arriving in town, while taking the time to familiarize myself with the local watering hole and its residents, I became introduced to the well-known superstitions surrounding the Wicker house.
Yeah.
So, just having a period at the end of residence,
Yeah, and then like
or
maybe
like
even have like there I became introduced to
mhm.
the well-known superstition around the Wicker House.
It needs something more. You can't just stop it there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or if you used a semicolon, that would mean it's still talking about the previous sentence. So,
Yeah, it's true.
and then I have a conjunction junction.
All right. And next stop, Conjunction Junction. Doot, doot.
It seems that every small province plays host to some structure of ill repute which, as if by supernatural magnetism, draws rumor of ghosts and bogies, wrapping the timber and stone of its foundation in a shroud of darkness and horror. It is the provincial mind which transforms wild dogs into wolves, that walk like men, and interprets astronomical phenomena as harbingers of certain doom. And yet, even through the grayish haze, I could perceive a certain piercing, almost hypnotic quality of her eyes. It never took long for Wicker's tongue to be sufficiently loosened, at which time he would regale his latest passel of hangers-on with fantastic stories of his journeys abroad, forbidden hoodoo rites in the Caribbean, strange tribal sacrifices in the heart of Africa, dead men who walk in Eastern Europe, and countless others, each one stranger and blacker than the last. It was obvious he had not recently bathed or shaved. His well-groomed hair was mussed, and his eyes were bloodshot and wild. It is from this point that the tale departs from the realm of logical reason to instead delve into the twisted byways of urban legend. And yet I abide. Finn.
I was like trying to keep up, like while like basically scrolling through the story, like whenever you popped up one, I was like, there's not that many. There's still there, but like surprised how little there were,
Yeah.
given how verbose this story is.
And for those unaware, Mikey lists all these sentences off that start with its, ands, or buts, because generally there's better words you can use to start sentences.
However, another counter.
Of course.
By the end of the story, we realize this entire thing is a dialogue because he is literally dictating it through a recording.
Yep. So
it's the
all
way
of the grammar stuff
character-
doesn't mean anything.
Nope.
So why are we bothering?
Because it's our show. Hi, gamer. This is Al Dente Rigor Mortis. We like to be
Yeah.
critically silly here.
Yeah.
But yes. So is that it for you then, Mikey?
Yep.
All right. Gamer, how you doing there, buddy?
I'm fine. How are you?
Fine. What do you got? What do you got for us?
Graham, you okay?
yeah, I'm fine. Totally good.
You're
I'm
acting
good.
weird. I don't know why you acting weird.
I don't know. We totally didn't have a conversation off recording about how pissed you were from like the first page of the story.
No, that's silly.
Yeah.
You're being weird. Anyway, so I don't really know how to approach this. Because like I did a bad. Well, I'll get there, I guess. So here's the problem. Okay, I read the first line of the entire story. That's where everything went wrong for me. The first sentence tarnished probably like the first like third of the whole story for me.
Jesus.
And it's my fault.
Oh. Okay.
Kind of. It's kind of my fault. Because I misread something because it wasn't super clear, and it made me confused for quite a long time until the story itself clarified it later on. Because I had to keep asking the same question, and then it finally clicked. So here's the problem. Okay. Here's the sentence. Of course, everyone claiming residence in Arthur's wake knows tales associated with the Wicker House. So in my mind, I'm like, wait, this is the first line of the story. I don't understand. So, and then I started doing a list of this is the things it's trying to say with my stupid brain trying to understand. I'm like, okay, so there's a guy that's named Arthur and he died and they're at a wake for him right now. And some people are claiming residence at his wake. And those those people know tales of the Wicker House? This is confusing.
Yeah. Arthur's Wake is kind of a weird name for a town. I mean, I like it, but at the same time, it's that not abbreviation. It's that that hyphenation at the end where it's like between R and S, like the Arthur's Wake. And I mean, it is capitalized, but even then, like gamer, you're not alone.
Awake is an event though, so that might be capitalized. That's why I read it
Awake
that
isn't.
way.
Awake is an event as well. Yeah, you're right. Again, you're not alone in this because for the first like 5 seconds, I thought that Arthur's Wake was like a person and stuff like that, and it's like it is because it is such an interesting and unique way to. It's a unique name for a town.
Yeah.
But it's also a unique name for a town that's like probably on the coast or something, or like in New England or something is kind of my guessing, because it's like the wake of is something like to do with like oceans and water and stuff.
For sure.
Like, yeah.
So basically, this first sentence was like one of those abstract art pieces where it's like if you look at the negative space, it's like a creepy like doll in the middle or whatever the fuck, and you look at the other space and it's like two people kissing or something like that. Like it's two completely different things depending on what you're focusing on. And I could not get my head away from thinking about them being at a wake because
you couldn't get away from the two people kissing.
Yeah, it starts in media res, which I fucking love.
Yeah, I know.
So in my head, I'm like, okay, all of a sudden we're at a wake for this dude that's named Arthur. I don't understand why or how, but let's continue reading the first paragraph. I read the first paragraph, and there's no new information. Literally everything else everything else as in that one other paragraph basically just repeats what the first sentence says, more or less. Like you almost don't need all of that other long run-on sentence.
Aside to be flowery, which is obviously what this person is doing in this entire story.
Yeah, and also thinking about that in retrospect, he's saying all of this out loud. It's not like he's being a fancy bitch up in his attic with a quill, even though it's like the year 2000, you know.
No, it's not the year 2000. I actually, in my actual thoughts, I know exactly when this takes place, and I'm still confused as to why this guy is so fucking verbose.
It's a handheld recording device.
handheld recording device. So okay, fuck it, I'm doing it now. We're doing it live.
Right.
So the Wicker house. It mentions early on that Mr. Wicker showed up in Arthur's wake in 1920, and then he died in 1925. Like that's when all the events happened.
Mm-hmm.
Then it says later on, 60 years later, or like more than 60 years of like disappearances. And like people still can't figure like it's now become an urban legend, like the whole like event and stuff like that. And then that's where we find Nair is 60 years after 1925. So it's actually 1985.
Oh, okay. So he's like on a Walkman.
Yeah. Or no, he like my guess is that he is dictating this because he is a writer, because that's my best guesstimate as to why this story is so like purple pro pulp horror gothic in terms of its like in terms of its writing, because like initially I thought this was somebody writing this in the 20s or the 30s. I was not expecting even for the 80s. It's like, all right, we got a regular Stephen King walking down the street talking dictating into an old like handheld like cassette recorder.
Yeah, like a mini cassette recorder.
Yeah, because like I have one of those from the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
So like I know I think this one's from the 80s. I actually have it on my desk.
It's just right there.
Oh, it's one that I've not been able to find a spot for. So it's just been sitting by my computer.
Fair.
I don't think this is from the 80s, but it's pretty old.
Mm-hmm.
But it's basically the same kind of thing, or like one of those kind of things. And you've seen it in movies like The Conjuring, where those movies are set in the 70s, and you see them with like a little pack, like almost like one of the larger recording devices, and they have like a microphone on them, but like they have it strapped to their side.
Yeah.
For recording purposes. So I mean, again, that technology was around in the 80s and 70s even. Mm-hmm. But it's like that doesn't excuse like how again, the only explanation I can come up with in my head for the headcanon is that this guy, on top of being like a supernatural like skeptical like hunt like or like a somewhat skeptical supernatural hunter, is that he's also a writer. Because why else would he be saying all this like dictating all this in such a verbose way? That's my word of the day. It's because that's how the story kind of feels to me. It's like, what the fuck?
Well, that's the reason that he's doing all this research. It's for like information on a book or whatever he's trying to write it, probably.
Yeah.
He doesn't straight up say it, but why else would this random guy be investigating all this?
Yeah, it's definitely something that needs to be like, it's sort of like picked up between the lines. Wait, did you actually? So you picked it up between the lines? You read the subtext.
God damn it. Why'd you make me do that?
But yeah, no. But yeah, yeah, I just said, yeah, like going back to what we were saying earlier, yeah, this is him just walking down the street talking about this ridiculousness in the 80s. So you can continue. Sorry, cool, I didn't mean to take over your spot. Mm-hmm. I'll just check mark that part on my notes.
Yep. And another thing in regards to the first sentence, starting an entire story with "of course" just kind of seemed very weird to me. Because when I think of course, I would think of it as like a follow up to something that you just said. Like, for example, I like waffles. Of course, I do like pancakes too. You know, like
yeah.
Where's the first half of that thought? You know.
Yeah, it's definitely, again, we're starting media res, but at the same time, I could also see it just be like removing the of course and just having everyone claiming residence in Arthur's wake knows the tale associated with the Wicker House. Boom, done.
So much better.
Yeah, to our bumpkin eyes, or to our bumpkin minds.
Actually, one more change. It would be of course, or sorry, no, you remove of course. It would be everyone claiming residence in the town of Arthur's wake.
Yeah, yes. It does say now again, like this is the part. Yeah, so we have two examples in the last like 10 minutes where like subtext is good and subtext is bad for Gamer in Yellow. Yeah. Because it does say like the next paragraph. Scant days after arriving in town, went to the
Yes.
while taking the time to familiarize myself with the local watering hole and its residents. So there, you could summarize that Arthur's Wake is the town's name. However,
It doesn't
I
say
agree
that,
with you.
though.
I know it's subtext, but I agree with you. It does need. It would be so much easier if it did say the town of Arthur's Wake.
It's like a dude named Arthur could be dead in the town of Derpland, and they're going to a wake there. And then it would be the exact same. Scant days after arriving in town of Derpland. Like,
Yeah.
It's...
Yeah. If you're reading it on the surface, it's like, what the fuck? Where's this wake? Where can I go get some beer?
Yeah.
Or some brews right now?
And like the last sentence of the first paragraph, it says like, in Arthur's wake, the Wicker House fills this odious task. And
it still sounds like it could be a person's name.
Still could be
Damn
talking
it,
about
now I
the
can't.
wake, you know?
I know, and I still can't unhear it. Like every time you're bringing it up, like it's like I can't now I can't unhear like it's Arthur's wake as in like somebody's wake.
Yeah. So do you see why I was upset?
I do understand now.
And like, so like later on when all this got when I finally understood everything, I went back over all my notes and titled all of the ones that didn't matter just in bright red, just null and void, null and void, null and void. Because a whole bunch of my notes don't fucking matter anymore. Because most of them were in regards to my confusion of what the hell's going on.
So I got a question. Do you think Arthur's Wake, if it is a coastal town, and so that's why it's called Arthur's Wake, or do you think that the town itself was built up after like this really prominent guy's wake?
I don't know.
I kind of wanted to be the latter, not the former.
Yeah, you're different.
Because the latter sounds is a way more interesting origin for a town. Is that like after like the death of this man was the beginning of this town?
Yeah. His death built all of this.
Yeah, that is 100% gothic as fuck.
Mm-hmm. Either
wow.
way, I will continue.
Yeah, I'm sorry that you misconstrued that and null and voided like most of your or like half your notes.
Yeah, it's muy no bueno, but it's fine.
Yeah.
Moving on now. As common folk are wont to do, with a logical explanation absent, more fantastic theories were crafted. So that kind of sounded weird to me. The first part, as common folk are wont to do.
Mm-hmm.
So,
you know it's an actual phrase though, right? What does this is like right at the top of Google. Like I just like quickly typed it in because I was pretty sure that was a phrase, but I double checked. People also ask, what does "as they are wont to do" mean? If someone does a particular thing as if they're wont, they do that thing often or regular.
Ow, my head.
It is an old English word.
Okay. Yeah, like I've heard shit where it's like as they often want to do. Like want sounded normal, but won't sounded weird to me.
So the difference is between like won't, which is the one that you're thinking we're always thinking of in the modern day, which is will not. It's like it's a compounded word of will not. That one is WON apostrophe T. That is the won't that we always hear in like when it comes to like what we think of when we think of won't, which is will not. However, won't, which is just WONT, is just another word that doesn't use the apostrophe.
It might actually be pronounced as want.
It might be,
the word that I've been hearing all the time is just that.
Yeah, because it does. That would make actually. You know, I can just look it up because it has a pronunciation for it.
So want probably is just want.
Wow,
English. My favorite.
Yeah, I love it too. I'm just looking at it might also be the want, like our want to use that. Wow. Because there's also want as in WANT, which is want.
I want
but I was
this
looking
to be over. Please
Too
continue,
bad.
though.
We're in. I just like listened to the pronunciation of won't, the one that we're thinking of for the story, and won't, the will not version, and they are basically the same pronounced, except in the little guide for how to pronounce it, they add an extra O to the will not version. So it's it is unfortunately pronounced won't. But I think regional dialect probably has made it sound more like want for a bunch of us when we've heard it in the past.
Love it.
Yep. Human language. It was a mistake.
Yeah.
We should return to the caves.
Can't get English 2.0 out quick enough.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Type null on that one and move on. Okay. So next one is just kind of like a blanket statement. I had to reread a few lines repeatedly because I didn't understand them, and I had to read them 2 or 3 times just to understand what was going on because of the quote-unquote purple prose, you say. It happened about 5 or 6 times by this point, so I'm like, I figured I should probably record at least one of them.
Yeah.
2 patrolmen stared at the entrance, yawning black and wide as the maw of the infernal creature beckoned fools to wander to their doom. So I thought it was saying like the patrolmen were like yawning back.
Yawning? Yeah.
Because I'm a simpleton.
Yeah.
So like words like yawning are used for the act of yawning to me.
Yeah, but it's also used for like a big gaping maw or like a cave and stuff like the yawning cave.
Yeah, and again, I got it. It's just I had to think about it.
You're not alone because like I definitely encountered this as well. Like at that one, I was like, and re-listening to it, like you say it, I was like, that's just kind of a jank sentence as well. Like,
yeah. So yeah, and my last one is in regards to him saying I turn off the small audio recorder I've been speaking into and place it in my pocket as I make the turn onto Blackwood Drive. So when I got to that point, I was unaware that this entire thing was an audio transcript this whole time. That's fine. Yep. But what does that mean the last 2 paragraphs are now?
Yep.
I think it's supposed to be that he's still like it's still.
He turned it off and put it in his pocket.
He's like I it's I think he did turn it off, didn't he?
Yeah.
Like, no. Oh, yeah, he turned it off. Yeah. What the fuck?
So
at this point in the movie, we're suddenly like we're like zooming away from him a little bit, and it's suddenly like seeing it. Yeah, that makes no fucking sense. It's just that
how are we getting this information now? Like the whole thing is set up around that this is an audio recording, so that's how we have this information. But then there's extra information at the end. Did he
all he had to do
and then pull out a notepad and write down that he's walking up to the thing and he's about to open it? I think I see her. Okay, I'll put that in my pocket now with the audio recording and go.
Yeah, I really feel like it would maybe serve better just remove the turn off. Like it's like as I put my small audio recorder back into my pocket, still on, of course.
Just specify.
Yeah. Damn it.
Also, like, if he, why would he even turn it off? If he's doing all this to get information on this, wouldn't he want
keep it going?
Yeah.
Yeah, keep it rolling. God damn. Yeah, there's no reason for that audio recorder to be turned off, both like out of story and in story.
Yeah, like it could just keep going, and then at the very end, like there's a spooky noise or something, and then it just says this is where the audio recording of Nair Aderman ended.
Yep.
It's like, oh, it's an audio recording. Neat.
Yeah, I 100% agree that just get rid of the whole like I turned it off, like because it ruins the ending a little bit.
A little bit.
It certainly ruins the immersion level of it.
But that is it for my grammar in yellow.
All right. And then we should move on to actual thoughts. So I'm going to start with this one here. Of course, everyone. Actually, no, I'm not going to start with that one yet. I'm going to start with the image of the house that is accompanied this story.
What?
there is an image at the top of the page, wiki page, that I feel perfectly encapsulate. Like, that is the house I was thinking of.
Yes, that does look exactly how I thought it looked.
Yeah. Like, for once, the image fits the story.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, good job there, Shadow Swimmer. Just wanted to throw that out there for it. And going on to my actual notes and such. Of course, everyone claiming residence in Arthur's Wake knows tales associated with the Wicker House. So I first read that, and again, talking about the Jeff Ury episode of Jeff the Killer Redux, wasn't Arthur's Wake the town mentioned in Shadow Swimmer's Jeff the Killer Redux?
I don't know, was it?
That was the name of the town that the family had moved away from. That in Jeff the Killer Redux, it says that, like, that they left Arthur's Wake.
You double check that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I will pull up the
You're right. I pulled up the old creepypasta or the old story and did a Control F, and yes, you're right, 100%.
Yep.
Not that I didn't believe you, but I didn't believe you.
Yeah, it's fair. Yeah, Jeffrey Woods, 17, former resident of Arthur's Wake.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun. So interesting. I kind of like that. Like, I kind of like that that Shadow Swimmer tied in their version of the Jeff the Killer story to their own fictional creepy town.
Yep.
That's pretty neat. So on to my next quote, or my next comment here. It is from this point that the tale departs from the realm of logical reason and instead delve into the twisted byways of urban legend. I really love that line. Like, it, for me, like, that is exactly how, like, it's like poetry, how it, like, encapsulates how a simple, truthful story, like a simple, small, like, thing can be blown up into a urban legend.
I thought that quote was going to end with you saying, like, and transitions into the Twilight Zone or something like that.
Yeah, right? It does. And again, that just helps. And then also, like, actually, that's a good thing for my other part of my comment on this. A lot of this story just oozes gothic pulp horror writing. So it really does lend me to believe that, like, even though it's never mentioned in the story, and I kind of wish it had been mentioned at some point, I mean, there is some subtext to it. So, I mean, for some of us, that's fine.
I found one
for some of us, not so much. Yeah.
I found a good one of those. And a bad one.
Yeah. Yeah. But, like, in this case, like, I kind of like, you can definitely tell through the writing of the story that this person is clearly an author, like a Stephen King or a Stephen King-esque or like Lovecraft-esque horror writer or of some kind. Just the way he's, like, just flowering up and flourishing his descriptions of everything.
He's chewing the scenery pretty hard.
Yes, yeah, and I'm here for it. Like, honestly, like, this is my kind of jam when it comes to, like, horror writing.
It's funny you say that.
Like, I love reading this.
Is the complete opposite.
I know it is but like, we're different people, man. I love this kind of writing. You don't care for it, so I'm fine. Like, I've made peace with that. And yeah, my next comment here would be the thing that we brought up earlier, where it was like 60 years have gone by, so therefore it's in 1985. Again, like, I think we do need a little bit of that context of, like, he's a horror writer that would explain why he's saying it the way he is, because throughout most of the story, I was, like, just kind of guessing that it was, like, set in, like, the 20s or 30s that this guy was, and then it was, like, it says, like, cut to 60 years later. It's like, oh, why?
Almost like we need another paragraph before the start. Then it would be okay to have that one start with, of course.
Of course. Yeah. Of course. And then my last actual thought is the ending. Slender tendrils of fog quest hungrily between my feet, like living things as I approach the ruins of the Wicker House. Pushing through the rusted iron gate, I am reminded that, despite my misgivings, I too am human, my mind as readily capable of deception as any other indeed. as any other. Indeed, making my way up the front path, a trick of the moonlight suggests a soft glow emanating from the second-story window, as if from a candle lit within, and, were it not impossible, the visage of a beautiful woman stares down and smiles at me approvingly. My hand tightens on the knob as children's laughter reaches my ears. I open the door. And then that's the end of the story. And to that I was like, "Ah, you cock tease!"
Yeah.
So I'm guessing he's either dead or there's like, and we're finding this transcript from like somebody who found his body or whatever, like in the little dictaphone thing. Except for the last two paragraphs.
Yeah, no, he wrote that down as he was walking.
Yeah. Or maybe there's some more to come in another story, because there are a bunch more like stories related to the Wicker House and Arthur's Wake that Shadow Swimmer has written. So maybe there's more to the story. Although the way this story is written, it is very much in line with some of the anticlimactic endings of like Lovecraft stories and like pulp purple prose stories from like the 20s and 30s.
Mm-hmm.
Like again, Lovecraft's Dagon literally ends with him writing the story down of his journey it ends with the sailor writing down his journal about how he encountered this weird island in the South Pacific, took a piece of it, and now he's hearing as he's sitting here in his hotel room writing down his journals, he can hear the giant clawed hand pounding at his door. Oh no, it's broken through. I'm going to have to jump out the window now. And then it's gone.
Yeah.
Like that's the end of the story. Like he like literally writes it like he died while writing the story.
That's hilarious.
Or like he didn't get to finish the story because the giant like monster hand like burst through his door and he had to leap out the window.
Yeah. It's like go to the
So
castle.
yeah, yeah, that's what I was trying. Yeah, that was what I was like. Maybe he died while writing. It's like, what? How would you die? Like Yeah, it's very much that. And like on the silly note, yeah, it's like that. And the serious note, like this is the kind of writing that I grew up loving about like the Cthulhu mythos and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So this totally like could end the way it is, and I'm fine with it. I wouldn't mind some extra things in another story, but I'd also be fine with this being like the last will and testament of Nair.
While you're talking about all this, I know how to fix the last two paragraphs. Perspective switch.
Yeah.
Switch it from first person to third person, like to a omniscient narrator or whatever the word is.
Or yeah, well, okay, yeah, omniscient narrator. Or would it be even more interesting if it is the next part of it is the woman up in the window watching him?
Oh yeah,
like Mrs. Wicker
now watching there, like writing with a
writing a little bit of her journal. Yeah. Dear diary, there's a man coming up the steps right now, and they go as slender tendrils of fog quest hungrily between his feet.
I will kill him and take his audio recorder and listen to what he said.
Yeah.
That changes the ending though, because if she's the one writing it, then she's
been controlling his actions. Dun dun. Okay. Whoa. My brain hurts a little bit from that. That's some Stranger Than Fiction bullshit.
Not gonna lie, what you were saying was sounding confusing at the start, so my brain just turned off until he stopped talking, because my brain is just like, I can't anymore.
Apparently, so did the recording. That's why I had added that little bit earlier. I think what he's saying is like basically it turned out that like all of the man's actions as he walked around and like did his stuff and did the dictating has all been transcribed by this woman who's controlling him through her written words. I think that's what Mikey is trying to get at.
Yes.
Okay.
See, I'm going to go the simpler route in that she wrote the last two paragraphs, and then added those two paragraphs to the end of her. She killed him. Obviously, like she's the monster. If it wasn't clear. She killed the guy, took his audio recorder, listened to it, transcribed it down, and then wrote the last two paragraphs in her own perspective.
But I turn off the small audio recorder I have been speaking into.
Well, I don't know, like for you to your fix would help, would make that
Yeah.
scenario though. I mean, yeah.
Okay. So I'll be right back 1 second.
Again, yeah. Okay. But yeah, that's my honestly, that is my final or like my last of my actual thoughts. I was very enthralled with the story because of the writing, because it's that kind of like, again, I love pulp writing. I love the turn of the century like weird fiction. So, and this felt very much in line with that. So I was down. But that's it for me. Hand it over to Mikey. The E stands for evil.
So my first actual thought here, I have a quote.
Mm-hmm.
In each case, she was seen exclusively at night, staring forlornly through the second-story window of what was assumed to be her bedchamber, lit only by candlelight from within, and to all appearances the picture of health. What? Like,
I mean, there's definitely some exaggeration going on there. Like the kind of exaggeration you see in like urban legends and stuff like that, where it's like you have no fucking clue what her health is if you like through candlelight, like in a darkened chamber from a distance. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like, especially if it's a photo from the 1920s, that is like there is just it's just silhouettes. Like, and maybe some scant detail that's like partially that's like somewhat blurry.
Well, this was this wasn't the photo yet.
Oh, this is the description of people passing by.
Yeah, the people that saw it passing by type thing.
Yeah,
that's more acceptable. But
I mean, yes and no. like because like that, it's at night. It's candlelight through a 1920s window, which are not as clear as our current windows.
And also, if it's candlelight, if she isn't holding the candle, then the candle's behind her, which is silhouetting her face in shadow.
Exactly, yeah, and it's also from a distance and an elevation.
Yeah,
because she's on the second floor of this very nice building. But yeah,
being said, I'm sure there's people that were curious enough that they probably like set up freaking a telescope or binoculars or something. Yeah.
100%.
So my next actual thought is about the picture.
What?
Oh, but the photo of her, or
yeah, I got the quote here. I gleaned much of this information from archives of the local paper, especially one curiosity piece which was accompanied by a photograph of the lady in question. The scene was just as I had heard described, the single lonely prisoner peering through the window and across that terrible iron fence into the darkness of the night. The photograph was muddled due to the quality of the prehistoric equipment and the lack of natural light, effectively obscuring the lady's features. Indeed, it was difficult to distinguish whether the blurred form was in fact human, though it did project an impression of unmistakable femininity. And yet, even through that grayish haze, I could perceive a certain piercing, almost hypnotic quality of her eyes. For me, there's too much detail in this picture.
Yeah, especially with the context that like this was taken at night with again, like it says, like archaic photography. Like you need like those photos were like you could get really good photos at the best of times with like good light sources. And you're telling me some 1920s ragamuffin paparazzi like hiding in a bush across the street from the Wicker house. This is like, haha, hold still there, goody. It's like, oh man, and then he had to like vamoose because he had to like do like a flash, like use like that giant like ka-thunk flash.
I don't know if they would bother a flash that far away, honestly.
Yeah, it probably wouldn't matter. Yeah, so he's using like maybe moonlight and whatever lights were coming out of the house for the exposure. Yep. Otherwise, it's just it's no wonder it was like dark and muddled. It's like, how the hell now? perhaps because of the eyes like being like even through the photography, our narrator saw that the eyes were really piercing and hypnotic. Even perhaps that's like sort of a tell that there is something supernatural about
I
her.
was waiting for you to stop talking so I could say that exact thing.
I am sorry. You know me. I can't
Yeah.
stop.
Can't stop, won't stop.
Yeah.
The only way that I made this picture work was if it was in the Harry Potter universe.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
So basically, in their newspapers, they have animated GIFs for the images.
Yeah. They're basically like enchanted photographs that
Yep.
move and sometimes have a mind of their own. So yeah, it would be a lot easier with that, but here we are.
So the next quote I have is about other pictures. The narrative was itself accompanied by the most gruesome of photographs from the scene in question. I will summarize their contents directly. Then he summarizes: a man goes into bar, buys a bottle, drinks most of said bottle, puts wallet on the counter, and then smashes bottle and leaves. And I'm like, that's a lot of pictures, especially in the 1920s.
Yeah. Also, was that actually the photos that were being taken, or were those the photos of the crime scene, over at the Wicker house, like of the
Well,
slaughtered
I think
woman? Yeah. Sorry.
it's meant to be the pictures of the scene at the Wicker house, but he says, I'm going to describe the scene, and then does the bar scene instead of the actual crime scene.
Yeah, I really should have gone with I'm going to describe the tale surrounding the crime scene, like as it was brought forth. Maybe, I don't know.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I'm just picturing like a stop motion sort of style of like photography in the bar as he comes in, like maybe with a little bit like silent film, like musical scores, like like, oh, Mr. Wicker, are you okay? He's like, give me a booze, and just again, just stop motion style as he downs the drink and then like smashes it, dumps his wallet, and then leaves.
Yep, that's the only way that makes sense.
Yep, clearly.
I'm surprised I didn't pick up on that. We'll summarize their contents directly, which means like I'm going to do it right now.
And then he proceeds to just
doesn't.
tell the whole story first. No, yeah, he starts at the beginning of the whole like crime scene situation, but like the way he wrote it, it doesn't sound like he's going to do that. It sounds like he's going to talk about like the killings first.
It's not very direct. I'll summarize their contents eventually when I get around to it.
But first, let me start at the beginning of the heinous crime.
In due time.
Indubitably. Fancy words here.
So my next actual thought is when the policemen are entering the house and the land and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So glistening blood dripped from the cruel altar, slowly pooling on the floor while telltale splatters painted the walls like macabre decoration. And I'm thinking to myself, if the blood is still dripping, the culprit is likely still there.
Yep.
And then the next quote, he had been disemboweled, ropey innards pouring out of his belly, dripping blood and excrement. I'm like, again, if it's still dripping, the culprit is nearby.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and then if we find out that he was in the attic.
Yeah.
So.
I'm pretty sure right after the crucifix one, they basically say we could go for backup, but if we do that, this guy might get away. Which, if you read the subtext of that, it means that they're assuming that he's there. Because it's making me read subtext. I don't like doing that.
Embrace the subtext.
That's like one of my
gamer.
things. That's my bit.
I know. No, yeah, I did. I was actually kind of worried when they started talking about like going for backup, because I thought they were going to go for backup. I was like, no, you fools! It's like, well, we realized that would be a bad. They realized that would be a bad idea because the culprit might get away. So they decided against their better judgment to keep going. I was like, okay, whew. They aren't from Derpland yet.
You say that, but leaving would be the smartest thing for their own self-preservation.
Yeah, but they are
They have
cops.
billy
This
clubs.
is their job. Yeah, they got. Yeah, but this is the 1920s. They got to do
Yeah.
this. They survived one world war.
Mhm.
All right. Anyway, my next actual thought here is that the policemen are actually made out of lead.
I'm sorry.
So
Okay.
the quote is, "Eyes wide, heart pounding wildly, the lead man slowly eased the latch."
See, one of them is made of lead. The other guy
Yep.
is made of some other odd material, because that's the lead man.
I hate this. I'm definitely leaning into gamer territory here. I hate that lead and lead are spelled the same.
Yeah.
It's the worst.
Especially considering like LED isn't really used for anything.
Well, yeah, no, it's used for lead, as in like the past
Is
tense
it?
of lead. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like lead should it sounds like it has two E's.
What is
But why doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm really curious now. I'm gonna find out why lead what lead is, because I know it's a town. But what is Leeds? What's Leeds etymology? Okay, lead. It's an old English word, or sorry, a middle English word, and it's spelled differently. LEED is what I'm looking for, like the definition of. From Middle English, lead, LEDE.
Great.
Shortened variant of leaden, LEDEN, which means language. From Old English, Leoden, popular or national language, native tongue. From Old English, Leod, which is LEOD, people, nation, or people or nation. Cognate with Scots, lead, means language.
I think I'm just gonna rewrite the dictionary.
Like,
I'm so tired of this.
yeah. Oh my god. Well, see, here's the thing, gamer. You got to understand. English is a
Yeah,
shoggoth
it is.
of a language. It is not just one language. It is a Frankenstein of borrowed words and rules from other languages, because it was a common language. Like, it was basically like it was the one that, like, I'm not sure, like, again, of the specifics, but like of how it got started. But it's basically like, again, it's sort of like a common ground language. But unfortunately, because of that, it just takes and steals and borrows and raids other languages for its words.
It's the hostile superpower of languages.
Okay, yeah, you can go with that. I was gonna go with the Viking of languages. They just raid and pillage other languages and take their shit. Sorry. Okay, back to you, Mikey.
All right. So my next actual thought we already covered, which was the audio recorder being turned off.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't get anything after that, technically.
Yep, technically the story should have ended right there. As I turn off the recorder. Bloop, done.
Then my last actual thought is that this story reminded me of a board game called Stuff and Nonsense, where you are a bunch of world adventurers, but you don't actually leave home. So basically, you stay home and do things, and then when you go to the Adventurers Guild, you spew a bunch of nonsense and lies.
Oh, nice. So it's there's you Baron Munchausen it then.
Yeah.
Yeah, you pull a Baron Munchausen and just make up a grand adventure, even though you've not actually done it.
Yeah, so I was reminded of that when the main character of the story was basically an adventurer that left and then came back and shared his stories with the local populace.
Yeah.
He doesn't actually leave his house.
Yeah, he just makes it look like he leaves his house whenever he goes away and comes back. He doesn't even have a wife. That's actually him just in drag up in the bedroom.
Could be.
Honestly, I was kind of getting the Hitchcock movie Psycho vibe from that, where it was like that you never see spoilers for Hitchcock. You never see the one kid or the one guy and his mother in the same place, and it's because she's been dead for years and he's been like basically wearing a wig.
Okay, so it's the music video for
and
for Snuff by Slipknot.
I suppose I've not listened to that.
That also happens in that.
Gotcha. I wouldn't be surprised if they were inspired by the Hitchcock the Hitchcock movie, but yeah. But yeah, it's definitely like I was definitely thinking that, or like she's a vampire. But yeah, it was one or the other. It was either super mundane. He's just like he has no wife. He's just been dressing up, or she's actually like some imprisoned vampire, or she's like the head of that. She's the actual head of the household. But yeah,
and that's the end of my actual thoughts.
Oh, okay. And then we have Gamer.
My go. So I kind of chimed in a little bit when you were doing yours, Cultist, but the wordiness of the story was not really welcomed for me. And like, yeah, I get it. He's a quote unquote man of science, so his brain is on a higher pay grade than mine. But it just kind of goes on and on about the same thing. And for the first few paragraphs, I was convinced that you could summarize the entire paragraph in one sentence. And for the first 3 paragraphs, you could. But after that, after the first 3, like it started introducing new things, and it was just new things with new paragraphs instead of just eating a dead horse. So I was glad of that.
It kind of makes sense. Once you read the story, it kind of makes sense that like because you put into context, he's been walking from wherever he was staying in the town to the Wicker house and like basically just filling in dead air.
Yeah.
So he's just basically because like I do that all the time. Like I just like I'll sometimes I've definitely repeated myself on multiple like conversations, or if I'm just like talking to myself or like trying to like write something down, I'll end up accidentally like adding in filler that's basically just like going over the same thing I've done already. Like I've done that in our games sometimes, like our tabletop games. As a GM, I've definitely reiterated myself multiple times, like I'm doing right now, actually.
I didn't.
So yeah, I
didn't see it like that. Like this entire time, he was walking and saying all of this without a stop. Because it's saying like he went and did this and he got this information and this is what it said. And like the information is so specific on everything. It seems like there's breaks in the recording that we're not getting. Like he's stopping to talk to the people at the library and go down and find the information and then read through the information, pick out what's good, and then record about the good stuff and then turn his recorder off and then move on to something else.
Yeah, and it's just until the end is when we actually find out that it's a recorder and he's been turning it off and all. Yeah. Yeah, I could see it either way. I could see it either like him like summarizing all of the contents that he has accumulated up to this point as he's walking from his recent domicile to the Wicker house. And then it could also be that like he just keeps turning off the recorder whenever he goes to like finds like more information that he was like researching.
Yeah, the point where I finally understood was when it said, additionally, there was little chance the typically damp and sunless climate of the wake would be prescribed to improve one's constitution, even by the most inept of physicians. Yeah. At that point, I was like, wait, the fuck is what the hell is the wake that you're talking about? This is the same as Arthur's Wake? Wait, Arthur's Wake is the name of the town.
Yeah. That sentence also gives me gave me some context as to like where roughly this town is, because it's got to be somewhere near the coast, either the east or west coast, where like it's always damp and like often like the weather's not that great. So like it's you usually see those kind of towns or that kind of weather on either side of the coastline of the Americas, and also in the UK and stuff like that. Because the only context, not to take over your spot again, I'm sorry, Gamer. One of the things I'm kind of like surprised by is like, if we didn't have the fact that Jeff the Killer Redux says that they were from they left Arthur's wake in that story, and Jeff the Killer stories are generally in well, see, does that story even say that they're in America too? Like, it had me wondering, honestly, like this story and that story, like, kind of had me second guessing. It's like, is this in America or is this in the UK or is this in like some other part of the world that we just like? I didn't know geographically. I didn't know where this was. Like, I had kind of a vague idea that I was able to kind of like be content with, but like rethinking on it, it's like, where is this place?
I don't know. They don't really say one thing or another as far as I remember.
Yeah. I mean, based on the context of like the night of what was going on in the 1920s, I'm thinking it's definitely somewhere in the West, and by that I mean like North America or somewhere in like England or Europe area. And I'm kind of inclined to think that it's somewhere in the Americas.
Mm-hmm.
But aside from that, like, it's very vague where exactly this is situated.
It's hard to tell through the dialect, because who knows if that's the norm in that area, or if this guy is just,
or if he's just
than everybody else.
Yeah, or if this guy's like Lovecraft, where Lovecraft was anachronistic even for his day. Like, yeah, he wrote, like, the way he wrote and the way he spoke and like his mannerisms and stuff were outdated by the 1920s standards. Hence why he was a racist. But I digress. I'm sorry for taking over your spot.
That's fine.
Back to you.
Either way, that is the point of the story where I stopped being angry and started being sad because it was my fault.
Oh. And then you're like, and then you ended it to despair.
Kind of, yeah. I ended that note by just saying, "I'll just shut up now." That's how I left my note, because it's just like, everything's wrong, whatever. I'll just keep going.
Gamer.
Yeah, words are happening, sure. That's basically what happened.
No,
it's fine. I didn't look up most of the words because I was in a deep depression, but I did look up a couple. I've heard it before, but I wanted to look up the specific definition just to be sure. In regards to Christian name, that's just first name. I wasn't 100% sure on it, so I want to double check that. So I learned a thing 100% there. And then Milady is an illness, so I learned a thing I hate.
Oh, malady.
Looks like Milady.
Sorry, you said Milady. No, yeah, but it's malady. Well, I've always heard
sure
it as malady.
Does, but man, it looks like Milady. You swap that A to an apostrophe. It's the way that you would greet a woman of high class. Piss me off.
Or be a hipster douchebag to a woman. It's like,
indeed,
Milady, tipping your fedora.
And then that just gets all the way down to the ending where I'm just like, so it just stops. Considering it just swapped from a recording to whatever it is now, it's still first person, so I still don't get it. We've kind of talked about it, though. I'm assuming it's trying to be a narrator at that point, but it just doesn't come across like that at all.
Yeah, I agree. I can't be. Unfortunately, you guys like is like bringing it up is like, why? How is this being recorded? If the microphone's turned off, kind of partially ruined the ending for me a little bit, just a little bit. Yeah, ruining things for the cultists.
You get to feel some of my despair.
Yeah. Get rejected. Embrace the sadness.
I kind of know what you're referencing, but I don't remember.
It's I did a piss poor job of referencing it.
You did enough that I kind of got it.
Yeah.
But that is the end of my notes. I'll go back to the corner.
Okay. No, come back.
No.
I'll give you a hug.
COVID.
Okay. Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah. All right. So I guess on to final thoughts. Mm-hmm. So I feel like this is gonna be very polarizing.
What makes you say that?
Because I literally just I recommend it in my final thoughts. It's the way it's written, I really enjoy, because I really enjoy that, and like the topic that's being told, like basically it's telling a spooky story of a bygone time, the 1920s, spooky things happening. I'm for it. Like, I love Cthulhu mythos. I love the Call of Cthulhu like stories. That's basically stemmed into my love of 1920s, 1930s like pulp genre. And this bleeds pulp genre and like gothic pulp genre to me. So like it feels like a traditional like weird fiction ghost story. I like this could be the origin, like this could be the setup for a scenario. Like you guys could be the constables checking out the Wicker house in 1925, and we just take it a few steps further after Mr. Wicker like defenestrates himself. Like you guys actually encounter Mrs. Wicker as like a vampire like mistress, or as an angel, like, as a fallen angel that's been kept in this house for 5 years. Or again, some other like Cthulhuoid monster that the dark sorcerer has been using and been manipulated by
all
as
the
well.
like sacrifices
So,
and crucifixion and all that stuff with the sigils, probably a demon of some kind.
well, that's why I said fallen
Oh,
angel,
yeah.
because in some lore, angel like demons, most demons are fallen angels, like angels that fell during the war of heaven. So anyway, yeah, it could be some kind of demon thing that she was,
You don't
like
wanna
a
use your purple
succubus
prose
or some
word
kind of
now?
creature.
You want to use your fancy purple prose word of saying fallen angel because it's more smarter than just saying demon.
No, I was just
I know.
I'm just agreeing with you. Like,
I'm
yeah, it
just
could be a
fucking with
demon as well.
It's fine.
Oh, okay.
No.
You okay, buddy? But yeah, all that to say, I really enjoyed it, and if you like this kind of writing like I do, you'll probably enjoy it as well. And I'm kind of curious as to what the other stories in that Shadow Swimmer has done that apparently stemmed off from this story of the Wicker House. Kind of what are those other stories about? But that is my recommendation. So Mikey, D stands for evil.
I had a few issues, as I pointed out. So there's the audio recorder issue at the end, the descriptions of the pictures that are too descript, and then saying that he's going to describe the pictures and then describe the scene that clearly wasn't photographed.
Yeah, I'm surprised neither cultist or me
Yeah.
picked up on that.
Yeah. I think I was just more forgiving.
Yeah.
until we sat down and started talking about it.
I was eating ice cream at the time, so I couldn't be bothered.
An entire tub of ice cream. Oh, you're having a whole container of Haagen-Dazs.
I did enjoy the prose for the most part, so I'll give that a pro point.
Pro on pro. Isn't the English language awesome? One has an S, one has a silent S, one doesn't even have an S. Yeah. That's literally what pro, like, it's, yeah.
The worst.
It's annoying.
So, yeah, overall, I'm going to give this a partial recommendation.
Okay. And Gamer.
I don't know. It was fine, I guess. Because, like, it was confusing at the start, and it truly defeated me because of my confusion I had with Arthur's Wake and all that. And it kind of ruined the mood, and it felt like I was just, like, sitting in a corner with a dunce hat on for the rest of the story, tainting my enjoyment of it. But that's on me, mostly. So I can't really shit on the story too much. After I gathered myself from my fuck up and rethinking over the story, it went by fine. Like, yeah, it's really flowery, and first few paragraphs just go on and on about nothing. But the rest, as soon as you get past that, it flows a little bit better, and it wasn't really too much of a problem. I like the mundaneness of the story, with like hints of supernatural stuff being at play, but it might not, because it might just be people seeing shit. So the best I can do is give it a partial recommendation, because it went okay, so long as you don't misread the very first sentence like me. It's like there's a whole room of traps. And there's like a very clear path you should walk on, but there was like a stick in the way, and I tripped and I stepped on the very first trap. And then I had to walk down the rest of the path with a bear trap on my ankle to get to the end.
Oh.
Basically what happened.
And the bear trap was invisible until you realized, why am I having issues? And then you look down, it's like, oh, it's a bear trap.
It would be the opposite of anything. Actually, because I felt the pain immediately. Sorry, no. I felt anger immediately. So the anger was from me tripping on something, although there was no actual pain. And then it was like a a Roadrunner Looney Tunes situation. As soon as you look down, that's when bad shit happens. So I looked down and realized that there's a bear trap on my ankle, and then I started very quickly bleeding to catch up for the amount of time that I've been hit by it.
See, I'm just envisioning you as a Wile E. Coyote, like running, like getting all angry at like the Roadrunner, which is the story. The Roadrunner runs over that, runs past that the cliff. You continue running that cliff, and then you start slowing down. And you look down, and then you look back up at the camera, pull out a sign, sadness, and then you start pulling.
That's.
Yeah, sorry. No, yeah, you look down. What's down there, like hundreds of feet down in the canyon. It just says,
"Welcome to Arthur's Wake."
Welcome to the town of Arthur's Wake, and then you're just like sadness.
That is exactly how it felt.
Fuck, I haven't been doing a lot of title cards lately, but I might have to make that a comic, like a little comic strip of a title card.
Good shit.
The Wile E. in yellow.
That's about it.
All right.
A personal recommendation, as long as you don't screw up right from the get-go.
Yeah. So about 2 out of 3, I suppose, give or take. But that will be this week's episode. If you like what you heard, or if you didn't, leave us a comment in the comment section below where this gets posted, whether it be on Podbean, Facebook, YouTube, or Tumblr. You can also send us emails at aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. That's ALDENTERIGAMORTIS@gmail.com. Where you can also send us other creepypastas, SCPs, spooky things. You creep it, we'll peep it. Yeah. And you can also talk to us on Twitter. Mikey is at the E stands for evil. The Gamer in Yellow is at the Gamer in Yellow, but without that W because his name is very long. Go over there and cheer him up. Because Cthulhu knows he needs it. It's gonna be okay, gamer. And I'm at Review Cultist. If you'd like to help support our show financially, you can go to Patreon, look up Al Dente Rigor Mortis, and select the backer tier you'd like to support us at. We have $2 and $5 tier with special episodes, early access, extra content. To our patrons that are helping support the show, thank you guys immensely. You're helping keep those hosting bills at bay. And as always, we very much appreciate that. And to our listeners and the authors of these stories, thank you guys immensely, because without your listenership, it'd be like screaming into the void, that pit of sadness that the gamer's stuck in right now.
Yeah, it's fine. I don't think I've said yeah as much in one episode as this. Yeah.
And without your authorship, without your stories that you share online to spook and scare people with, we really wouldn't have much of a show because we'd have nothing to talk about. So thank you all the same. Until next time, I've been your host, Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey, the E stands for evil.
I'm going to listen to some Linkin Park.
And this has been Al Dente Rigor Mortis. Sleep well. Prowling in my skin. This orange it will not peel.
Yeah.
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 Yeah.